In this episode of OG55, I am joined by Mr. Theme Park Conductor. We're talking about Bob Iger's contract extension. We're going to talk about the Disney brand. Has it taken a hit in recent years? Is there evidence to show that it has or hasn't? We're going to talk about it up next on OG55. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. We're talking Bob Iger. We're talking Disney brand. I am joined by Mr. Theme Park Conductor. Mr. Conductor, thank you so much for coming back on the channel, sir. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. So on YouTube, Twitter, and Threads, you can find me at Theme Park Conductor. So Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and I haven't gone to any other ones. I want to join TikTok and Snapchat. I'm getting on that eventually. I do want to give a shout out, though, if it's okay, OG, to
absolutely.
Theme Park Wizard, because I think he just got a ton of subscribers on TikTok. So congratulations to him and Theme Park Casual for finally getting monetized. I saw that on YouTube this morning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We love both gentlemen. We love Wizard and we love Casual, and congratulations to both gentlemen. They are definitely family here on the channel for sure. So yeah, thank you, Conductor, for sharing that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, let's dive right into the stories at hand today. So this story dropped a little bit ago, a few days ago. Disney extends CEO Bob Iger's contract through 2026. The company chief, who returned in November after the ouster of Bob Chapek, had been set to leave next year, but he has been extended. It says here, it goes on to say, the Walt Disney Company says the venerable CEO has signed a contract extension, one that will keep him at the helm of the media and entertainment giant through 2026. The decision by the board was unanimous and cited that the need to transform the company and to execute a transition plan, quote, which remains a priority for the board, the company says. And it goes on to say here, time and again, Bob has shown an unparalleled ability to successfully transform Disney to drive future growth and financial returns, yada, 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 corporate mumbo jumbo. But in a nutshell, basically, look, we've all been kind of speculating in this space, in the community, the fandom, that does Bob Iger have enough time to kind of right the ship, right? Like to get everything kind of in a place where it's stabilized. You got a lot going on with streaming. You got a lot going on with the studios kind of underperforming. You have a lot going on with just everything. Linear television is a huge problem, and just everything going on. On top of that, they're looking for a successor for the CEO spot. It's a lot to have on your plate, and to complete all that in 2 years seemed like a task that was almost impossible, insurmountable. Conductor, what are your thoughts? I mean, did this news that he's extending it 2 more years surprise you, or are you kind of like, this was like inevitable?
You know what? I kind of saw it coming. I'm glad in a way they extended Iger's contract, but in another way, I do feel like you're saying 2 years with all the stuff that's going on, and then to add on top of it, you got the writer's strike going on. It's a lot to handle in 2 years. So I'm going to leave it open for debate. My whole thing is I would not be surprised if they cannot execute a new CEO to replace Iger. He gets extended even longer. And I know that's insane to even think about, but with the Olympics coming in 28 and just all the publicity that's going to bring alone, again, I see it coming that he could be extended even farther, because some of the candidates that were on the short list to replace Iger, I just don't think they're there. And we've talked on the channel when I came on the first time about Josh Tomorrow possibly being a contender for, and I just don't think he's ready. And then Christine McCarthy, who just left the company, she was on that list, and now that she's gone, it's like, who else do you really have besides Josh tomorrow? And that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, Daddy Josh, as we call him, is not ready for prime time. I'm sorry. I mean, I haven't seen anything from him in his role as the head of the theme parks and experiences that's really impressed me. Again, you can be a nice guy, and I'm sure he's a great guy. Hey, Josh, if you're watching this, let's go have a beer, brother. I'll have a beer with you. You seem like a great guy.
Absolutely.
Right? He seems like a really nice person, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a good leader. And I don't see anything from the theme park side of things that have really blown me away since he took over. And a lot of fans were like, well, it's because, Chapek was holding him down. Yeah, but you know what? Fandom, I mean, Chapek has been out of there now since November. It's been what, months now or something like that? 8 months. You can only blame Chapek for so long. I mean, he's kind of been on his own for a while now,
Sure. And the whole thing is too, and with Iger doing what he's doing to try to save the company, as we all can see with him talking with Tim Cook from Apple. Then you got him. There was a post on Twitter, and I can't find the post, but I saw it. It was actually kind of funny in a way. They had Bob Iger. I forgot what the background was, but it had all the streaming services pictured behind him, and it had a for sale sign on it. So Iger's dealing with that. Then you got ESPN, which he's talked about leasing and trying to get another company to come in and try to help him distribute ESPN better and the whole streaming thing. So I feel Iger's dealing with that. He's still trying to clean up Chapek's mess to a point. They're trying to find a CEO. So it's 2 years is a lot. It's a lot less than we thought to cram all that in there. So that way he could set up the next CEO for success. He must have some miracle work that we don't know about. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, and he's not in a good spot. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to be him because I said it on social media, but like, there really is no winning situation for Bob Iger. Like, so if he sticks to that November 2024 date, no matter what, like, I'm going to stick with the 2 years. I promise 2 years. I'm doing 2 years. Yeah. Then he's probably not going to have everything fixed by then. I mean, very unlikely. So then he's going to be kind of accused of doing the same thing he did in 2020 with like throwing the next person under the bus, right? Like he kind of threw Chapek under the bus right before the pandemic.
He did.
If he leaves it in 2024 like as promised, there's still going to be issues, and he's going to pass on somebody else, and then he's going to get blamed for doing the same mistake twice. But when he extends his contract like he did now to 2026 to make sure he has enough time to do everything, then people on social media get on him for like, oh, look at this guy. He's a dictator. He's never going to leave. And he's an ego and this, that, and the egomaniac and yada, yada, yada. It's like the guy can't win. If he extends it to get the job done, he's an egomaniac. If he sticks to the 2024, then he's throwing the next guy or gal under the bus. So, but at the end of the day, though, I mean, honestly, conductor, I think this is the right decision just because I feel like I don't really care how long he stays as long as he gets the job done and gets it done well, right? Like just handle it, right the ship and get a good person or even persons in that CEO position and we're good. And if it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years, it takes 4, it takes 6, whatever. But whatever you can do, we cannot afford another debacle,
No. And I think even if he's stuck to 2024 or now it's going to be 2026, whoever the new CEO is going to become, whoever that is, I still think like he did with Bob Chapek when he came in, I still think he's going to be part of it, but he's going to be in the background like he was with Chapek, because until the new CEO starts and to see what they're going to do with the company and what direction they're going to go into, I think Iger, whether he's in front of the cameras, as I call it, or in the backstage area, he's still going to be part of the Walt Disney Company until he's absolutely sure that, like you said, the whole Chapek situation, as I call it, doesn't happen for a second time. You know what I mean?
You can't afford that. Yeah, the company just cannot afford to have that issue. No. They got to have stability. And you can't just leave just because there's a arbitrary date set for you. You have to make sure that everything is good before you leave, and it's like a heart surgeon, right? It's like, I don't want my heart surgeon to tell me, well, I promise you I'll be done at 3. So no matter what happens, I'm gonna end the surgery at 3. It's like, nah, dude. If you have to go to 5, you go to 5. Make sure it's done right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Now, conductor, you did mention ESPN and the strategic partners. There was actually breaking news about that today. There's rumors that the strategic partners that Iger was talking about might be the leagues themselves, might be the NFL and the NBA. So I don't know if you saw that story, but it just came out like, that's interesting, right? Now, I'm not a sports guy at all. Like honestly, no clue about any of that stuff. But are you a sports guy? And what do you think about that? If Disney partners with the actual NBA and the actual NFL as like a joint thing for ESPN, do you like that idea? Or
you know what, I do like that idea, but then again, before Disney even thought about doing this, I felt that the sports leagues have done just fine on their own. But again, it's open for debate, because anything that Disney gets their hands into, it's kind of a wait and see game. You can't. I know some people like to say, "Oh yeah, it's going to be great. Disney's going to throw their hand in, and it's going to." You can't do that nowadays. You have to kind of give that person or persons the opportunity to prove themselves, and then you make your judgment after. Because if you're going to sit there and make your judgment not even before they can do anything with it, then you're already determining, okay, either he could do it or he can't. And then when you're on social media, like all of us do, and we're on social media, we're on YouTube, we're talking about it, and if we can't give the guy an opportunity to prove himself, then it's like it kind of ruins it for everyone else. So I'm open to the idea, but again, until it happens and to see what he does with it, it's all up in the air.
Yeah, no, it is. It's all up in the air. There's a lot of rumor right now, a lot of speculation. There was that Bloomberg article that came out, I think it was like a few days ago, talking about like Bob Iger wants to sell off the linear TV assets like ABC and Freeform and things like that. Now that's an interesting move,
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, it's like I've talked a lot about that on the channel about like if Disney's going to sell anything, maybe you do those, right? Because that old guard kind of legacy media is kind of dying out, and streaming and all that is the future. And maybe you do get rid of ABC. The problem with that though is that when you remove ABC and a lot of these linear networks from the Disney family, you're making Disney a smaller company, which in turn makes it easier for other companies to come in and try to acquire Disney, because now it's a much more affordable situation for some other companies. Like right now, I mean, outside, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but like outside of like an Apple or an Amazon, there aren't too many companies that can actually buy the mouse. Well, you get rid of ABC, you get rid of a lot of that stuff. Well, now it's smaller. Now there's more companies that could potentially buy them. But would you support them selling ABC and those networks? Or do you feel like maybe they should give them a chance and kind of just reimagine them into something that works a little bit? Or where do you stand with that?
I think they should give it a chance to reimagine, give them that opportunity. And if they can't reimagine it, they can't get it any better than the situation these companies are in now, then I would say, get rid of it, sell it. It's dead weight at that point, because you gave it an opportunity. It's not doing what they thought it was going to do. So I would say at least give it a chance. And see where it goes.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen with that. And if they do sell, because I pass by Disney Studios all the time, like on the 5 freeway.
Yeah.
And that ABC building is massive in the studio. Like if you get rid of ABC, like what do you do with that giant building? Or do you lease it out to the new owners? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of like question marks with this whole situation.
Definitely.
What happens with the Disney Channel? Because that's technically linear TV. Like, what do you do with that? Do you keep that? Do you get rid of that? Do you move that whole operation to Disney Plus?
I think if anything, they would probably move it to Disney Plus. I don't think they would totally get rid of it, because back in the early 2000s, even the 90s, that was the thing with the 90s and the early 2000s kids. And I think with the new generation of kids growing up, you know, they want to keep a hold of that. So if anything, it's going to go to Disney Plus, and that's a whole nother situation because they're stripping away, from what I heard, Disney Plus and taking a lot of original content out, and I I have mixed feelings about that, but that's a whole nother conversation on that.
Yeah, they're purging. They're purging because I
Yeah,
mean they're taking stuff that isn't really getting a whole lot of eyeballs. And I
yeah,
guess the reasoning for that is because, well, number one, it just takes up space on their servers. So there's
sure.
that. But then another thing too is like all these shows and movies, people don't really realize, but every time it gets played, they have to pay everyone involved in that show or movie residuals. So if you have a show like that's like Willow, for example, that's not
Yeah,
performing, you're paying the actors and the cast or whatever these residual checks for the little eyeballs they do have on that show. You're paying them out. Or, well, if it's not getting that many eyeballs in the first place, why not just cut bait, take it off the platform? You save money on those residual checks. I know it sounds really dirty and kind of scummy, but that's basically what they're doing. And that's a shame because I thought when in 2019 I was really excited about Disney Plus because I thought, okay, this is my one-stop shop for all this Disney content, and it's
sure.
looking like that's not necessarily going to be the case. It looks like they're going to start swapping things out. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't like that. I understand why they're doing it, but as a
yeah.
fan, not too thrilled. You know?
No, and then I'm also hearing on that quota too that they want to raise the prices even higher for Disney Plus subscribers. It's like, why? We're already paying what I feel enough money. Why would you raise it even more and piss off your fan base even more? And then at the same time, gut a lot of the shows, movies, all that out of the streaming service, but then charge even higher. It's bad enough, when you go to the Disney parks and you're paying a lot of money. Now you're essentially going to be paying more money for the streaming service, but yet at the same time the company's basically taking the guts out of it. So that's kind of it's hard for the consumer. It really
Yeah.
is, especially
Yeah.
nowadays with people. And I'm not saying a small amount of people. I'm talking a large amount of people all across the U.S., even out of the country that come into the United States to go visit the theme parks. They're living paycheck by paycheck. So by Disney doing this, I get it in one aspect, but I don't get it at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's a balancing act for sure. Disney's got to save money somehow. At the same time, though, you still want to attract people to subscribe to your service.
Sure.
It's like the content stuff. Like they're overpaying on content. Like these films are costing too much. But at the same time, while you want to cut, you don't want to cut too far into stuff where you have CW looking Star Wars shows or something. You don't want
Yeah.
it to look super cheap either. You want to make sure that you can still maintain quality and scale it back. I think they can, but it's a tightrope. They got to walk
Yeah.
here with that,
It's
Now,
very tight.
it's very tight. Now, in terms of this whole talk about selling the linear networks and this whole thing and downsizing and scaling back, there have been rumors for years now, and they've kind of even amplified a little bit now that Apple might come in and buy the whole company. That Bob Iger might outright just sell Disney to Apple, the whole company, the whole kit and caboodle. Do you support that idea? Are you kind of on the fence with it? Hate the idea? What do you stand with that, conductor?
You know what? I'm glad, to a point, but I'm more on the fence than anything because Apple, we all know, makes the iPhone, iPad, et cetera, and for them to dip their hands into now getting into the theme parks, that's kind of skeptical for me because it's like, okay, well, Apple doesn't have that type of background where they've ever done that. So I'm up on the fence. I would like to see what happens with it. But again, if Apple does buy it, in one aspect, I think Vash Sky brought it up when I was on the show the first time briefly. If Apple does purchase Disney, maybe the technology and stuff of some of these attractions and just stuff in general will be updated, kept updated, because Apple's a tech giant, so that in one aspect it might be good for Apple to buy Disney, but in another aspect, getting their fingers into the theme park world, it's on the fence on that one. I would have to wait.
Yeah, it is. It's on the fence. I think that I would hope they would kind of take the approach that Comcast took, because Comcast is a cable company, and they ended up swooping in and taking control of Universal. And then they learned very early that, hey, the theme parks, good money, you know? And so they've really embraced the theme park business. Even though they're a cable company, they kind of went all in on that theme park stuff. What I'm hoping, if and this is a huge if, you know, but if Apple were to buy Disney, I'm hoping it's the same kind of situation where Apple recognizes the value of these theme parks, you know?
Sure.
And here's the thing too, with Apple, I think that they're kind of a similar brand to Disney in the sense that their companies are very similar, like in their with their kind of mission statements. You know, Apple is a very like legacy, quality focused company. They're very protective of their brand, Apple. They also, you know, are perceived to be overpriced, much like, you know, Disney, and they're very similar companies in a lot of ways. They have very different products, but like the image is very similar.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives me a little bit of encouragement with Apple, that they kind of understand the Disney mindset going in, because Apple has a very Disney mindset with their own stuff, right? So I think I would be encouraged there. I agree with you and Vash. I think the technology would probably greatly improve in the theme parks with like the devices, like the apps and all that stuff. Obviously, that's Apple's wheelhouse. I would imagine that would be much better implemented than what we currently have with Disney. We might even get some upgraded Magic Bands or something, better ones. Sure. I mean, there's potential there, but there's just something about Disney being owned by another company that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. So it's again, like I said on another topic earlier, it's kind of a wait and see game. If Iger decides to do that before his 2026 extension runs out, hopefully, if they do decide to do it, hopefully Apple can do it right. Because I would hate more than anything in the world if Apple buys it and it turns out to be a complete flop. Because now you're talking about Iger's legacy, which he had as the CEO for 15 plus years, now just going away completely, because now this whole situation with another company owning Disney just flopped. So I hope, if it happens, I hope they can do it right. And I hope I hope they know what they're getting themselves into. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting. I think that the fan narratives around Disney would also change, because right now Disney is very much seen as the King Kong of the industry, the big dog, right? And it's like, it very much is a Goliath. And sure. I think because of being perceived like that, I think that fans are sort of resentful a little bit towards Disney, a little bit of like, oh, we want Universal to win because Disney's so big. It's like rooting for that underdog, right?
Sure.
I think once Disney is no longer the Goliath and becomes just a brand under the bigger Apple umbrella, sure, I think the fan narratives like that would change. I mean, people would obviously still talk about Disney, but it would be in a different light, I think, because they're not the Goliath anymore. They're just some brand owned by Apple now. So it's like, right? There's not gonna be that same like kind of venom in their direction. Like, wow, you know, they're the Goliath taking over Hollywood. They're just a subsidiary now. They're just owned by Apple. They're kind of whatever, you know? So.
Yeah. So it's just wait and see.
Well, it's wait and see. Now I wanted to pivot to our next topic, which would be like the Disney brand in general. There's been a lot of talk about this, about like maybe the movies are underperforming, you know, the theme parks, whatever, because Disney has sort of, you know, gone too woke or whatever, and they're kind of dipped their toe into things they shouldn't have dipped their toe into. And now families are sort of pulling back on investing in Disney because they're doing things that a lot of families don't agree with, what have you, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Like, in terms of like the brand itself, has it taken a hit, or do you feel that maybe the damage is a little bit the perception is a little bit overblown with that. Where are you on that, conductor?
You know what? I think the damage, like you said, is a little more blown up than it should be, but it's still there because when as a company like Disney, where its main focus is to the consumer about entertainment, having fun, meeting obviously the mouse, and just kind of immersing yourself in their theme parks where you kind of forget all reality and you're just enjoying yourself and kind of like a fantasy land type situation. When they got into the whole gay bill thing in Florida, I think that kind of threw a rock in the lake. It created ripples that Disney did not need to have, especially with COVID. Everyone trying to recover, and even Iger said it on the interview on CNBC the other day. Florida, he was saying that the Florida park did open early. It got a lot of criticism because other states were still on lockdown. There were other theme parks, whether it was Disney or other company theme parks like Universal, Knott's, and so on, that were not even open. He got a lot of criticism for that. So I think Iger is trying to diffuse that, and I think he's done a good job. But like he did say in that interview, the reason why the board of directors felt that they needed to extend his contract is because even Iger himself said that there's more work to be done. It's not even close to being done. So that's why they did that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm kind of there's a lot of talk on like social media and YouTube and Twitter, what have you, about like, okay, the Disney brand, right? It's taking a hit. They're diving they're getting too woke, and this, that, and the other. And I do think that there is an element there where Disney needs to moderate, right? Like, you don't need to make a statement about the bill. Universal never made a statement about the bill, and they're doing just fine, right?
Yeah.
There's ways to handle this stuff. You can be a progressive company, but you don't necessarily have to be aggressively progressive and like going out, right? So they should moderate for sure.
Sure.
But at the same time, I do think that the other side of the equation, maybe like the conservative side, is kind of overdoing the effect of Disney being woke.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. It's like, if the brand itself was taking a hit because they're too woke, if what people are saying is true, like, okay, families are rejecting Disney because of their politics, you would see a lot more consistency across the board, which we're really not seeing, because you see the theme parks by and large doing very well. The cruise line is doing very, very well. Now, just on those two things alone, if families were rejecting the Disney brand, well, the last thing they're going to do is go on a Disney cruise where you're locked on this ship for a week, subjected to all this woke, right? like that's the last thing you would do. So a family, the soccer mom isn't going to take their kid to go see Lightyear because it's woke, but you'll basically live with Disney for a week on a cruise ship. You can't go anywhere. No. Logically, it makes no sense, right? No. And then even like the movies and stuff, I see a lot of like, oh well, Elemental underperformed, which actually it really didn't. The legs are pretty good on it, but I see a lot of narratives initially with the opening box office weekend. It underperformed, and this movie underperformed, and that movie underperformed because of the woke politics or what have you. Here's the thing, though: if that was true, and again, I'm going to point to another thing here to kind of signal that I don't think it is the case. If that was the case, Spider-Verse wouldn't have done as well as it did. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, OG, Spider-Verse is a Sony movie. Yeah. Yes, we're all nerds. We all know it's Sony. We all know the deal, the movie rights for Spider-Man. Disney doesn't have those rights. As nerds, anyone watching this knows that. But does the soccer mom know that? No. The soccer mom sees, a Spider-Man movie, which is a Disney character, and everyone knows it now too. Yeah. There's a new Spider-Man movie. I'm taking all the kids to go see Spider-Man. So they don't know that Sony's pocketing that money. They don't know the deal, the Sony movie rights to Spider-Man, none of that stuff. They're still taking their kids though to go see a Disney IP, whether Sony is the one producing it or whatever. From the soccer mom's perspective, it's still Disney and they're still going to see it. So that's why I don't really buy into this whole notion that like they're just rejecting. It's a company-wide thing. The other thing also is Disney movies haven't really underperformed that badly this summer. Indiana Jones 5 did. Absolutely. I'm not going to make any excuses for that. But a lot of these films, like The Little Mermaid and Elemental, they're actually legging out pretty good. Families are seeing them. The biggest issue with those movies isn't that people weren't seeing them. They are. The issue with those movies is that the budgets were too big. They can't make their money back, you know?
Exactly.
So I don't think families have rejected the Disney brand. Now, that doesn't mean Disney's safe. I mean, they could do damage and it could get worse. I think just right now, I'm not sold on the narrative that people are rejecting the brand entirely. It's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. So it's just, I think people nowadays pick and choose what they want to do, what they want to see. Like you said, you know, a soccer mom and her kids can literally stay on a cruise ship with Disney for a week, but they won't sit there and go to the theater and go watch a Disney movie. So it's again, it's a pick and choose game. It's not entirely, oh, Disney's woke, I'm not doing that. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Disney and Universal have dipped their hands in the politics one way or another. I think Disney got their hand caught first.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just again, where it all wraps around is when that whole bill was going on in Florida, Disney, I personally think, should never ever have gotten their fingers in it, because now they're starting to pay for it a little bit, and they're still pissing off to this day. They're still pissing off the governor of Florida, and that's just not a good thing, because you know everyone nowadays reads the news, reads media or social media, and without hearing other opinions, the first article or the first bit of news they hear, they're already making a judgment. So Disney or any other company, they can't be doing that. They just need to stay to the focus of just entertainment and focusing on the customer base, not politics. They need to stay away from that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about, you know, the general public, the normies are headline readers. And they rarely go beyond the headline. They scroll through their news feed, whether it be Twitter, whether it be CNN or Fox News, wherever they get their news on their phone, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't really click on the articles themselves. They look at the headlines, and that's the news they consume. Now, in the rare instance that they actually do click on the headline, they're only reading the first paragraph. People rarely see the headline, click on it, and read the entirety of the article. No one does that. Okay, very rare, very, very, very rarely. So I think that you're right. I think that when you have a bunch of headlines out there, and there's nuance to these stories, there absolutely is, but the general public isn't going to get the nuance. They're going to see the headline, and they're going to form their opinion based on the headline. Yeah. And that can change minds, that can change perceptions of the company and what have you. So it's interesting, you know.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. Now, overall, to kind of close it out, like, because we're in a real tumultuous time, right? Really shaky. We're on shaky ground right now with Disney. I mean, with really all these studios, really, but we focus on Disney here. So,
sure.
It's no sugarcoating. This is a rough time for Disney. At the end of the day, do you think they're going to work it out? We'll come out of this stronger and it'll be fine. Are you maybe not as Pollyanna-ish, where you feel like, well, they might get out of it, but in what form? You know, they owned by Apple, or they split up and broken out? Like, where do you kind of see this? It's almost impossible to kind of predict, but just your general sense, where do you see this going with Disney?
You know what, the way, if I had to base all my judgments on what I've heard up to this very minute, I think they're gonna break up the company. They're gonna sell the mass majority of it to Apple, and you know, Iger's gonna try to do what he can, but it's too close to call, and it's something that we have to all wait and see what happens. Again, you know, even down to getting Iger's replacement as a new CEO. It's like, okay, well, if you get a new CEO in there, is he going to be another Robert Iger, or is he going to be another Bob Chapek situation?
Right.
So we have to worry about that. And then, with the whole thing about splitting up all the streaming services, especially ESPN, and outsourcing it. And then you got, Apple looking to buy Disney, and Disney looking to get rid of ABC. Again, it's a wait and see game. And whatever they do and however they do it, whether they split it up in the sections or they do it all at once, it's just kind of, we have to see what the ripple effect is. That's basically what once the ripple effect happens, it's all out there. It's no longer speculation. It's no longer rumor, and it's out there. Then at that point, it's kind of wait and see what the consumer thinks about it. Because people post their thoughts all the time on social media. So it's kind of at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. The pendulum always kind of swings back the other direction. And what I mean by that is like with politics, for example, right?
Sure.
When the country votes in a Republican president, and maybe we have Republican House and Senate, right? And we get a lot of conservative stuff happening. Sure. Typically what happens after a period of time like that is that we get more Democrats then. The pendulum swings and kind of brings things to the middle again, right? It happens over and over again. We see this all the time in politics. The Republicans have control, then the Democrats, and that pendulum is always kind of evening out. Yeah. Same goes for Disney. And not politically, I mean, just in general. Like we had a time period of massive growth at the Walt Disney Company under Bob Iger. They were buying Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Fox. It was just he was spending money like a drunk sailor. He was buying stuff up. So I think that the inevitable kind of thing to happen in that situation is that the pendulum is going to swing and bring it back to the middle again. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that course correction. So you're right. I think you are going to see things sold off. Linear TV networks with this, that, and the other. It could be anything, but we're going to get a smaller Disney company. It's going to course correct itself. That pendulum will swing more towards the middle. And that's where we'll be. I think that we saw so much growth that the correction was almost inevitable, as Thanos would say.
Definitely. And, by Disney making themselves smaller, I'm kind of curious on a Universal Comcast standpoint, how they respond to that. That's the other side of this, because Comcast is, with Universal, they're side by side in a way, like of competitive type standpoint. So I'm kind of curious what they're going to do when all this goes down.
Oh yeah, no, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this whole Epic Universe thing pans out. How does that affect the Florida market? Is it going to cannibalize? Is it going to take away from Disney? Or is Epic Universe going to take away from Universal? Are people just going to do 2 of the 3 Universal parks? We don't know. We have no idea. It could cripple Disney. It could hurt Universal's own parks. I mean, we just don't know yet. Very curious how that's going to pan out. I'm very curious. Just in general, it seems like Comcast is very thirsty, very hungry to sort of take on Disney and beat them. And we'll see if they can succeed. Disney's had other entities kind of come for its throat in the past. I don't know how old you are, but in the mid 90s, Katzenberg, when he left Disney, he started DreamWorks with Spielberg, right? With Spielberg and David Geffen. I remember the headlines back in 94, 95, Disney's done. You have Katzenberg and Spielberg here making animated movies. This is going to cripple the mouse. And DreamWorks Animation actually did very well with their Shrek franchise and various things, but it was never really the entity that crippled or took down Disney. No. But that doesn't mean that something like that can't emerge and actually do that. It doesn't mean that just because DreamWorks was unsuccessful in doing that, that maybe Universal now can do that, So we'll see how that works out. It's fascinating, dude. It's really, really fascinating. The entertainment wars continue. They rage on.
Oh yeah, and like you're saying with Epic Universe, the whole thing is once that park's built and all the rides are open, all the shows, whatever they put in there, obviously it's going to be the shiny toy. Everyone wants to go to it. It's like out here in Hollywood right now. I was just there the other day, and I have to tell you, Nintendo, that small land, they had to clear the land probably about 4 times. That's how crammed it got. Then you have, the new Toad meet and greet. The ride obviously is racking up 300 minutes plus, and no one else is going to any of the other rides or lands like Harry Potter. I think when the park opened, because I like to do rope drop. I like to get in there, do my thing, and then get out, because LA traffic, I hate it. But when it opened, Harry Potter, the Forbidden Journey, and the little mini roller coaster, which don't even get me started on that, they were like 5-minute waits. And Nintendo are already not even an hour in to the park opening, and it's already over 90 minutes. So it's like, I feel the same thing's going to happen with Epic Universe. Epic Universe is just going to be packed, and the other parks, it might be busy, but not packed. Where all the wait times on the rides, the attractions, all that are reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, like, I think that Universal Studio Park is in big trouble. And I think it's in big trouble because a lot of the stuff that park has been dropping has not been good. I mean, that, in my opinion, what I've seen from the Minion Villain Con thing, very underwhelming stuff. And you're going to introduce Epic Universe down the road, which I'm assuming is going to be really, really good.
Oh yeah.
What's the incentive for people to do all three parks when you have Epic and Islands Adventure really kind of like the heavy hitters, and you have this other park kind of producing real like second tier stuff? They got to up that Universal Studios Park in Orlando really has to up their game.
Absolutely.
Really has to up their game. I think the only saving grace for that park is that, from what I understand, it's connected, right? Like the Diagon Alley and Wizarding World with the train.
Yeah.
I think that might maybe keep people interested in that park because it's the connector for that Harry Potter stuff. But I still think they got to up their game. I think they really have to do something in that park to be a significant draw, because the other parks seem like they're outflanking it like crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, see, that's why you're saying with Walt Disney World, once Epic Universe opens in 2025, I still think Walt Disney World is still going to be packed. But on the other hand, like we're saying, the Epic Universe is going to be packed. Islands of Adventure is going to be packed, but maybe not the main park of Universal. So that's why I'm saying, even with Epic Universe opening, I don't think Walt Disney World is going to lose all the crowds. They might lose some because Universal has a shiny new toy, and everyone wants to go check it out and give their opinion, obviously. So it might be a hit or a miss situation, but from what I'm seeing, aerial photos and all this, that park looks absolutely incredible, and it's going to bring the crowds for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating time. 2025. Yeah. It's coming. Conductor, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on. We'll have you on again many times. We'll always love having you on.
Definitely.
We're doing this big Walt Disney World trip coming up tomorrow, actually. So the OG crew will be away. I'm only gonna be away for like 10 days. But the other gentlemen will be away for much longer. I think another week or so. So it's going to be a little while before we get the whole crew back together, but we will be back. We will be back. And I'm going to try to actually have some content for the week. I'm going to try to have at least a little something when we're gone. So we'll see. But once the crew is back, Conductor, we'll have you back on. We'll talk shop. And you've been to Walt Disney World before?
No, I have not. So I have not been to Orlando. I've only seen pictures and videos. But I'm sure when you guys come back, because I'm sure at some point when you guys are all out there, you're going to want to check out Epic Universe, at least get close to it to see what the construction progress is and what Walt Disney World's doing with the whole Moana thing and Epcot and all that. So there'll be a lot of content to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, brother, for coming on. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media. And I will be linking all your stuff down below as well, but go ahead and let them know.
Absolutely. So on YouTube, Instagram, and Threads, you can find me at Theme Park Conductor. On Twitter, you can find me at Theme Conductor.
Hey, easy enough. Easy enough. Check him out. Follow him. Subscribe to him. He is amazing. As always, thank you everybody for watching OG55. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Peace.